Since the launch of the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X in late 2020, I feel like most people have been a bit underwhelmed, to say the least, with the software output that we have seen from the first party companies. Now, third parties have been doing their own thing, and it seems like Microsoft is finally finding its footing a little bit when it comes to their marquee titles coming to the Xbox Series X. We just also now have to wonder if they're coming to other platforms as well. But PlayStation has been a much more bizarre situation for me because PlayStation had a lot of success with the PlayStation 4. They've been having a lot of success with their consoles and the software output that we see from PlayStation first-party studios. But when you look at the PlayStation 5, well, it's been very different. Lots of cross-generational titles, lots of titles that supposedly needed the power of the SSD, but then run fine on something like a Steam Deck, which obviously isn't as powerful as the PlayStation 5 is. A PlayStation 5 Pro revision that I guess some people asked for, but not a whole lot of people seem super excited for it. PSVR 2, which, I mean, they've pretty much forgotten that thing existed, but I don't really care about all that stuff. You know, side stuff, optional stuff, that's all fine and well. I'm concerned about the software. I'm concerned about the exclusive experiences that I can only get on PlayStation 5, and holy hell, did Sony just read the room completely wrong. PlayStation, this is one of the most bizarre things that I have ever seen. And I have to go back to the video that I made a couple of days ago talking about the state of the industry and talking about the people signing off on these things and running these companies and making these decisions, because you're not reading the room right. Obviously, Sony wanted to go all in on games as a service. Now, most people don't pick up Sony platforms for games as a service stuff. They probably pick it up more so for the single player experiences or in-game multiplayer experiences that also exist within a single player game. But Sony decided, hey, you know what? MAG on the PlayStation 3, you kind of came and went, but we need more stuff like MAG. MAG is the future of this company. And now we have a laundry list, a essential graveyard of games that Sony has canceled within the last year that were all going to be live service games. Concord, taken offline, refunds issued. Make sure you follow Kami over on the Twitter sphere. He does good stuff like this. Concord, spending hundreds of millions of dollars on a game that anyone besides Herman Hulst could have seen and been like, hey, this isn't going to do very well. These companies are like drug addicts, and they're trying to get that high of something like Fortnite and not taking into account how many games as a service games have completely failed. And this isn't a new thing. I know so many people are going to bring up, well, you know, these games take a long time. But when these games went into development, you know, games as a service was hot. Were they really? Was there a whole litany of success stories with games as a service, or has it always been things like Fortnite and Overwatch that really sort of led the pack? And then you have so many games laying in its wake from third-party developers like Lawbreakers that just completely come and go in the night, and they lose all of this money. Is this some sort of tax write-off, tax avoision? I say avoision. Concord, absolute waste of money. Unannounced God of War live service game canceled. That's a new one. What the hell are you, what are you going to do with a God of War live service game? Now, I don't love like Ragnarok and stuff like that in the God of War reboot. I kind of prefer the older style. But even taking away that, even taking away the story elements and stuff like that, and how, you know, characters have sort of changed, where in the gameplay of God of War Ragnarok or God of War 2018 do you look at the gameplay of that game and think, hey, this is a multiplayer game? There is multiplayer potential in this. The movement doesn't lend itself to any sort of multiplayer thing. The combat doesn't lend itself to any multiplayer thing. Maybe if you're teaming up with someone, but that just feels like a mode that you would just add into the game. And I know you're going to say, well, look at Elden Ring. They're doing something different. Elden Ring is a different sort of situation. Elden Ring does not have an overinflated budget like something like a first-party Sony game does now, where you have to sell so many freaking millions and millions of units, and the game's going to take, 20 years to come out. The Last of Us Online, Factions 2, canceled December 2023. The surefire thing on this list, the one thing that everyone was asking for, the one thing that you kept promising, oh, development's coming along great on it, blah, blah, blah. Couldn't include it with the base game like you did with, of course, the original Last of Us multiplayer that people were very fond of because it was a different style of experience. It was a different style of gameplay than most multiplayer games have, especially on a console side of things. No, we got to make it its own separate thing so we can have a really convoluted story for The Last of Us Part 2 that really, in my personal opinion, doesn't make much sense at the end of the day. If I want revenge, I'm going to get revenge, and I'm not going to second guess myself and then second guess myself again. And you could sit here and say, that's not the point of the story, RGT, blah, blah, blah. Stories are to be interpreted by the person enjoying the story or reading the story or watching the movie. So kiss my ass on that. Spider-Man, The Great Web. Okay, there's been a lot of Spider-Man. What were you going to do with this? Like, I think concept-wise, that doesn't sound bad. That doesn't sound bad. You and, like, I would guess, like, DC Universe Online, which was another game from, 2011 that Sony probably saw, and they're like, we could do this with Spider-Man. Like, the thing about DC Universe Online was that it was new, it was different, but it necessarily wasn't all that great. And I guess you could have tightened things up and, made it a little bit better, but I don't know. Ben Studio multiplayer game canceled. And I want to remind people of something here. All of these canceled games, these aren't games where it's like it didn't cost money. All of these games were an investment. All of these games cost money to develop to get to at least some point in time. You're paying people to work on these games. This isn't a charity case. So you are spending and wasting money on all of these titles to varying degrees, depending how long they were in development. Concord, we know, is hundreds of millions of dollars. Even if some of these games are just $50 million, $20 million. You could have done something with that money to actually make a game that comes out. What the hell is coming out in 2025? Ghost of Yotai? Maybe Wolverine? Maybe Venom? Twisted Metal canceled because, that's tough. It's very tough to make a Twisted freaking Metal game. Once again, I think Twisted Metal live service is an easy thing to do. It's an easy thing to do. Multiplayer, you know that crap-ass Destruction Derby All-Stars that you put out there that nobody gave a shit about? That completely came and went like a fart in the night that you probably lost a bunch of money on? If it would have been a Twisted Metal game, bet you it would have done better. And I know people are saying you can't rely on nostalgia. Twisted Metal hasn't been around since the PlayStation 2 with Black. That's not relying on nostalgia. That's simply reinvigorating a franchise that people like, that PlayStation owners like. I know, God forbid you do something for a PlayStation fan. London Studios co-op game, studio closed, canceled. Deviation Games multiplayer game, canceled. Payback, third-person Destiny spinoff from Bungie, canceled. Horizon MMO, canceled. Horizon. I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something about Horizon that's going to surprise a lot of people. I think Aloy is a crap character, and I'm not the biggest fan of Horizon. However, looking at games on this list, I would put this towards the top of a Horizon MMO that would make sense, because you do have this big world. You do have an interesting movement system. You do have a lot of things that you can pull from within this world to potentially make a Horizon MMO interesting. I'm not saying that, Aloy is going to automatically become an interesting character, but I think that's not a terrible idea. It's just kind of Horizon fatigue with a lot of people. And I know that's crazy to say, but, they are milking Horizon like it's huge thing. And it does seem to sell really well, but is it really hitting with like a lot of gamers? I don't know. And Horizon is something I don't like talking about too much because I know there are people that love it, and I like it. I like the combat. I like the world. I can't get into the story. I can't get into the Aloy character. But you have had stuff like Lego Horizons and Horizon PlayStation VR 2 and stuff like that. Like, you're kind of milking that teat a little bit dry when you have Twisted Metal sitting right there. And then, of course, the games that haven't been canceled yet. Marathon, something that you're relying on 90s PC gamers to be excited about. Fair Games, Jade Raymond. Jade Raymond is about to pull off another heist. I think they're going to close Jade Raymond's studio and she's going to get another bag and sail off into the sunset. If that happens, there needs to be an investigation. There needs to be an investigation because she can't keep getting away with it. She hasn't made shit in over a decade. Google Stadia, that didn't work out. Got the check, sailed off into the sunset. Fair Games looks so unattractive. The characters look so annoying. And it's a shame because Payday 3 kind of sucks. So there is a market for that bank heisty game, but nobody wants to play as a bunch of angsty teenagers trying to fight the man when you're buying a game from $1 billion company. Like, the optics are so off on it. Horizon Online, Guerrilla Games, maybe. Bungie, Gummy Bears in development. New Jason Blundell game. I don't know who that. I hate when people do shit like that. When they're like, oh, this is a game from Jason Blundell. Who? There are like 6 people in the video game industry where you could say it's a new game from them and like it matters. Everything else just doesn't matter. And Helldivers 2 live. So a lot of games here. A lot of wasted money, wasted opportunity, wasted potential, wasted time, wasted effort, wasted resources. But I bring this back to the main question that I have. What's happening in 2025? Remakes and remasters? Stuff that hasn't been announced yet? Because usually, you need a little bit of lead up time. And we obviously have Ghost of Yotai. I don't think both Wolverine and Venom will come out in the same year. So maybe we get Venom, more of a side piece, a sidekick to this Spider-Man universe that they are building on the PlayStation brand. We are in year 5. Technically, I don't know. It depends how you look at the calendar. But at the end of this year, November of 2025, we'll be 5 years into the system's life cycle. We are over 4 years into it right now. And the output of games has been terrible. There's really been more canceled games than games that have come out. And it's because of this ideology of the video game industry. This bigger, everything needs to have this huge budget. Everything needs to take 10 years to make. Everything needs to be its own thing. You can't make a single player game that has a multiplayer component. No, it needs to be separate. We need to separate it. Let's do another remake, do another remaster. When you have success stories like Astrobot just sitting there, a game that didn't have a huge budget, a game that didn't have a huge turnaround time, a game that was just fun, a game that just looked good and played good. It wasn't a realistic art style. It wasn't some gritty freaking narrative like every Sony game needs to have. Like, third-party companies are really the ones that are keeping Sony like relevant right now, to me at least. I can't tell you the last time I played my PlayStation 5 because I play my third-party games on my Xbox. Like, Astrobot was the last time I played my PlayStation 5. Played it, beat it, enjoyed it, thought it was one of the best games of 2024. But what am I playing in 2025? How is PlayStation fumbling this so bad? It's got to be leadership. It has to be leadership and this bullshit positive culture mentality where everything is great and everything is awesome. And what ends up happening? Thousands and thousands of people lose their jobs. Millions and millions of dollars are squandered because you want to run a friendship, not a business. In business, sometimes you have to make decisions that hurt. Sometimes you have to read the room. Sometimes you have to realize, hey, this game sucks. We're not going to waste any more time on this. And you could say that that's potentially what they did with some of these games, but it's the timing of these things. You have to be able to realize that a game like Concord's not going to set the world on fire. You have to realize that games as a service is not just an easy thing to do. Yes, you can get one games as a service that completely blows up and becomes the next Fortnite. And then you don't have to worry about all of the failures that lay in its wake. But what happens if you don't get that big game? What happens if you don't get that big games as a service success? and you waste hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on all of these games when you could have been making what this PlayStation fan base has wanted you to make the whole time. I don't know, man. This industry sucks. But it really, man, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that, so many people can clearly see what the problems are. Yeah, I don't know if it's a matter of pride or something like that, but the companies themselves, they don't. And it's going to be a very interesting 2025. And I really wonder what PlayStation is doing in 2025, because I sure as hell don't know. And nobody watching this video really knows. Just keep relying on those third parties. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think of the state of PlayStation in 2025 in the comments section down below. Do you think I'm being too harsh on them, or do you kind of see a pattern and, a consistent behavioral process that doesn't look that smart or attractive or worthwhile? And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe if you are new to the channel. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.